So this fiqh of food is divided into 4 or 5 sections. One was etiquettes of eating foods and drinks, and that one we covered till now. And now we moved on to the second part, which is the halal and haram food. So first we focused on how we should eat foods. That was our main focus, etiquettes of food. Now we go into what we should eat, what food should we eat, what we can eat, what we cannot eat. And within that, which is this chapter is mainly going to be about the natural foods, and then we will move on into about slaughtering and hunting, what are the rules related to it, especially in this country, what we need to focus. And then finally we will talk about ingredients of food. That's the fourth one. And inshallah we will try to focus on when we go and buy foods from the stores, what we should look into and what are the different evidences that we have when we say something is haram or something is halal. So let's inshallah look into this topic of halal and haram foods. What natural form of foods is halal and what is haram, and the evidences therein. But before we get into those foods, we have to really talk about why do we really need to know about this? Why is it so much important? Is it not just the issue of scholars? Why should we average people should learn about this? So it is very important because many people are not careful about it. And as we will see, in Quran we have, and a hadith also, we have certain foods designated as haram food, so we have to stay away from it. So without knowing them, you will not be able to stay away from it. And the other thing is that I mentioned the story of Adam alayhi salam as well in the previous halaqas, that the very first trap that shaitan, Iblis, got our father involved in was related to food, was no other thing than the food. So he still tries to involve his children, the children of Adam alayhi salam, us into the same kind of sin, make us eat haram food, somehow confuse or somehow give or have those whisperings in the heart of the human beings, because of which person will be doing haram by foods, for example. That was the first thing, and that will continue, and that is continuing even until this day. And some people don't even know that they are being tricked by Iblis. So that's the reason this halaqah will help you understand what are the different tactics or tricks that shaitan uses and how we can stay away from it. And the verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-A'raf, فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانِ, shaitan whispered suggestions into Adam, into both of them, and that's how he was trying to make them eat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told specifically to Adam alayhi salam, don't go near that tree. And what did he say to them? وَقَالَ مَا نَهَاكُمَا رَبُّكُمَا عَنْ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَا مَلَكَيْنِ أَوْ تَكُونَا مِنَ الْخَالِدِينَ. So that was the response. He was saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just told you not to go or forbid you from that tree. It's because otherwise you would become an angel, or you would become an immortal. So first of all, you have to understand that Adam alayhi salam, he didn't know something called, there's something exists called lie. Everybody, angels and everybody worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no sin involved. And now somebody is lying, this is one concept that he was not aware of. And now on top of that, shaitan, he was swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was also saying, I am a well-wisher. I am a well-wisher. He said, وَقَاسَمُهُمَا إِنِّي لَكُمَا لَمِنَ النَّاصِحِينَ. He swore by Allah to them both, saying, verily I am one of the sincere well-wishers of you both. So that was the thing. So he presents the matter very, very nicely, and he tricks us. That's what his tactic is. And apart from that, in Quran also we see many verses in Surah Al-Ma'idah also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا أُحِلَّ لَهُمْ قُلْ أُحِلَّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. They ask you, addressing to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they ask you, what is lawful for them? So you should say, lawful unto you are al-tayyibat, the halal things, or the pure things. So what are those tayyibat? Again, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained it in a lot of detail in many ahadith. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned وَيُحِلُّ لَهُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. That is basically same thing. He allows them at-tayyibat, what is pure, what is halal, and he prohibits them what is al-khaba'ith, which is meaning anything impure or unhealthy or something that causes harm to you. This is in Surah Al-A'raf. And other thing you have to know is that whatever you eat, it becomes a part of you. So if you eat filthy things, you become, you have that part in you. So you have to be very careful what you eat. So let's look, inshallah, why exactly something is haram, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says don't eat this and eat this, why is He saying that? What's the purpose of it? So the first reason is that there are few foods which are harmful to your faith. Like what? How is something harmful to your faith? We will discuss this in more detail, but this is just a summary. If like somebody slaughters something commits a shirk by slaughtering for some saint or something, that's a shirk, right? You cannot do that. Slaughtering is worship, and you can only do it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's reserved specifically for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even with the food that you eat for yourself, you mention the name of Allah, meaning that you are mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is for Him. So that is harmful for your faith if you are involved in shirk, okay, in eating such kind of foods. So that was something which was harmful to your faith. And there are some kind of foods which are harmful to your body. So when we are born, we don't know what is harmful and what is not. Some things we learn from science and medicine, but science is still in development phase. Every few years we find some new food that we didn't know that's harmful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave us guidelines. What is halal and what is haram, what is harmful for you and what is not harmful for you. So for example, we can say something which is like drugs or cigarettes or something like that, or poisonous food, whatever it is. So those come into this category, and we will explore each of these in detail. And third thing, again, something which is harmful to the society even, right? So that is Islam takes into account that one as well. And for example, alcohol, intoxicants, all these come under these. When you are involved in that, you see all these car accidents happening and the families breaking and all these verbal abuses because of this. So it's all harmful to the society. It's not even harmful to your body, but others are also involved. And also, there are a few things which are harmful to your character as well. So Ibn al-Qayyim, rahmatullah alayhi, he said that when you eat something, you take on the characteristic of the thing that you are eating. So for example, if you eat like a carnivorous animal, like a beast, for example, you get that devilish character in that yourself. So what you eat has an effect in you, has an effect on your character. So that's the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentioned that there are few animals you cannot eat, because your human characteristic will start changing. You become devilish character and something like that. And other things, there are a few things which are not befitting a Muslim. People will just eat it, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us not to eat it because it's not befitting. For example, eating the vermins or the disgusting things, rats and things like that. We're going to talk more about these vermins later, what we should eat, what we cannot eat. So that's something which goes against our dignity. We should not eat. And then something which is a test. We don't know why it is haram. It's just that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to stay away from, we stay away from. That's exactly was the test of Adam alayhi salam, right? Adam alayhi salam was told not to go near the tree and eat from that. Did he ask why I should not go? He didn't ask, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him not to do. That's it. Maybe there is wisdom in it that we can learn later, but there are few things which we will never know until we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we just take it as is and we say it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's look into the foods that are halal and haram. But before we get into it, we need to categorize into different kinds of foods. The reason why we need to categorize it is because the rulings are different for each of these categories. For example, we have liquid foods and we have plants, vegetables and so on, and then we have animals. So how something becomes haram and halal, everything is, these categories have different rulings on each of them. So we will talk about that. That animals is actually a little bit more complicated, and that's why I broke it down by land animals, sea animals, and flying animals like birds and so on, and the vermins, which I just now mentioned, some disgusting animals. There are some rulings in that, and when can a vermin become halal, we'll talk about that as well. So these are basically a few things which are categorized, which we can categorize. So what can you say about liquid food? What is something that's haram, that's liquid? Khamr, intoxicant. What about plants? Do you know something which is haram in plants? In general, there are some plants which are poisonous, something that can cause damage to your body, right? And so those are the kind of categories that we will explore into. Animals, there are many things, and that's why I said it's complicated, but the rules are very simple. So once we know the rules, it's very easy. So we don't have to discuss all the 10,000 animals. This is halal, this is haram. We don't have to do that. We just will learn about those 4 or 5 principles. Once we know that, you yourself can understand and find out what is halal and what is not. So let's talk about this one, general rule regarding foods. This applies to all kinds of foods, liquids, plants, and animals, everything. Okay, and when I say liquids, it also includes things like cigarettes as well, right? Because when you smoke, it mixes with your saliva and goes inside, and that's why we say in Ramadan it breaks your fast, because cigarette liquefies inside your body. So again, that is haram to you. Why? Because it's harmful for your body. We'll explore why exactly scholars made it haram. It was makruh before, and now scholars say that it is haram now. Why is it? What are the evidences that scholars are giving that it's haram? We will talk about that as well. But general rule that you have to remember is everything is halal unless you have an evidence to prove that it is haram. So if somebody asks you, if you go go to the subway and take, for example, tuna sandwich, right? So if a person asks you, what's the proof that it is halal? What's the proof it is halal? So what will you say? You will say that I don't have to tell you whether it's haram, whether it's halal or not. You have to basically bring me a proof that it is haram. If you cannot bring me a proof, it's halal to it. So that's a general principle. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Jathiyah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَسَخَّرَ لَكُم مَّا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مِّنْهُ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has subjected to you all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth. In it are signs for a people who think deeply. So basically what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that everything that we see around us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it for us. He created it for us. So that's why everything is halal. But He made few things haram, and that is specifically mentioned. And that's the same verse that we mentioned just before, tayyibat and khaba'ith. That's what it is. So unless you have a proof that something is haram, everything is halal. So you don't have to worry. This is opposite from the worship that we do. Worship is opposite principle, wherein you have to bring me the proof that, what's the proof that I have to worship this way? Okay, so everything is haram until you are told that it is halal in case of worship. But in case of eating, it is very simple. Everything is halal, but you bring me the evidence that it is haram. So what exactly is haram? How do we know it? So there are 3 universal checks that you have to do for all kinds of foods. That's minimum basically. For animals there are more than this, but this three applies to all kinds of foods: liquids, plants, and even animals. So what is this? So first thing is that we have to check, we have to find out if this food is harmful or not, whether this food is harmful or not. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah An-Nisa, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا. And do not kill yourselves, surely Allah is most merciful to you. And he also mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. So, and do not throw yourselves into destruction. So what the meaning here is that there are few things, there are few foods even, because of which when you eat them, it causes your own destruction. It causes you to get harmed. So that's the thing that is you have to stay away from. And this is very important principle. I mentioned tobacco and cigarettes and poisonous plants, but it can be anything. So if a brother brings, for example, baklava, right? Baklava is a sweet. And is it halal or haram? It is halal for all of us, right? If it's prepared properly, it is halal. But it can become haram for a few people. It is halal for me, it is haram for somebody else. How can that happen? Diabetes is one way, right? If I eat something, doctors will say that this is a very serious patient of diabetes. If he's going to eat this sweet, if he's going to eat baklava, he's in very big danger. So you're risking your life and you're harming your own body. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, do not put yourself into destruction. So that's the first principle that you have to check. Okay? And also it can be even overeating. Sometimes, you see people when they overeat, they get all these ulcers and cancers because of that. So even in that case, it becomes harmful for you. You have to stay away from it, and it's haram. And second thing is the intention and food preparation. So I mentioned about the intention that when you go to your friend's house and he invites you and he serves you, for example, sheep, lamb, meat. So you eat it, you say it's halal, but while you're eating, your friend informs you, you know what, I went to my sheikh's grave today and I wanted to make my sheikh happy and I slaughtered it for him. So that is shirk. So if you're eating, you have to stop eating because it's shirk now, right? And similarly, the same friend, he says that, no, I slaughtered it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, but that is not sufficient. You have to, if he tells you, for example, I killed it with a gun or something, or I stabbed it. Okay, so if he says something like that, is it correct? Is it halal? It's not halal because there is a proper way of slaughtering. If you don't follow those rules, it is not halal for you. Okay, so that is something you have to know. How was the food prepared? Okay, you have to know what was the intention behind that. So that applies even to maybe plants and liquids as well. Some people might dedicate some food to their gods or whatever it is, and they say, I got this as a blessing for the spear or something, eat it please. So that's something you cannot eat because now it is specific for that particular deity that this person is following. So that's shirk. And then comes the general category of prohibited foods. So what are the prohibited foods? These are the foods exactly which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned by name or mentioned by category that you cannot eat this. Okay, and it's mentioned in Quran also. Examples of which is what? Specific prohibitions are, for example, khinzir, right? Like the pork, that is haram, and you have the blood as well, which is poured for, that is haram, and intoxicants that we just covered. So these are specific ruling. And again, there are few items which Rasulullah ﷺ gave us a principle that, if, for example, if animal has fangs, then you cannot eat. So that's like a general category. Underneath, many animals fall into. So that's a principle. So those are all falling into prohibited foods. But now again, there's one thing that you have to know, that there is an exception to this rule. Sometimes these rules are relaxed. What are those situations? So one such situation is that if you are in a very serious situation, you're hungry, you don't have access to any food, and the only food that you see is the haram food, and that's the only way you can survive. So what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about it? He mentioned in Surah Al-An'am, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فإن ربك غفور رحيم. But whoever is forced by necessity without willful disobedience, not transgressing due limits, certainly your Lord is oft forgiving, most merciful. So, for example, if you see pork, khinzir, it is haram, obviously we know, but there's nothing else to survive, and you know that if you don't eat it now, you probably, something will happen to you, you will fall down, you will faint, or you might even die. So what do we do in this case? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a concession that you can eat. You can eat. And scholars say that, can you eat the whole dish? If you have whole dish, can you eat? You have to be very careful now. You can only eat so much to the extent that you know you will be able to survive. It's not that you are eating the whole leg or the pork item there in the whole dish. You can't do that. No, people will be like, oh, that's the only opportunity I've got in my life. Let me take full advantage of it. Let me taste how people really enjoy this pork.
All the spare ribs.
Huh?
All the spare ribs.
Subhanallah. So that's something that you have to be careful. And the question is, do you have to compulsorily eat now? Do you have to, like, if you don't eat, is it like a sinful if you don't eat at that situation? We asked this question to Sheikh Yasir Virjas. He said that it's just permissible to eat, but if you stay away, even if it causes death, inshallah you will be a shaheed. And he gave example of martyrs as well. Like, for example, the first martyr of Islam, the woman martyr of Islam, who was it? Sumayya radiallahu anha. And she was forced to say kufr, right? And she had an option. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave permission that if somebody is forced, you can lie to them and save yourself. But she chose the path of shahada. She chose that I want to be a martyr, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted her martyrdom. So that's the same thing. So maybe it's a way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing and granting them martyrdom. But in general, if you want to take the concession, you are more than welcome. You can take it. It's no problem at all. You will not at all be sinful. What is another exception that you can think of? This food can become halal, which is haram in general. So one such case would be if you need a medical treatment. If you need a medical treatment and you know that there is no other alternative except to take this medicine which has haram ingredients, there does not exist any halal ingredients. So in that case, the scholars say that if it is absolutely necessary, then you can take it, but you have to make an effort to find out, is there any halal alternate exist, or is there some alternative, halal alternative, which is close, at least not best and perfect like it. But if there is something exists, then you should not take, you cannot take, you have to wait. But if you know that it is harmful, then you have to, it's okay to take that medical treatment. SubhanAllah, I see some, we often hear about these cases where Sahaba radiallahu anhu, and even the Tabi'i, and also the cases of Zainul Abidin and so on, when they were told that your leg had to be amputated, one of the great scholars and the great Salaf, they said that, I don't want to drink alcohol, I don't want to get intoxicated, because there was no anesthesia at that time. So that's how they used to make them amputate. You just drink a lot of alcohol, lose your senses, and then you amputate. So when this scholar, he said that I no way I'm going to drink alcohol, it's haram, even though there is a concession, I'm not going to drink it. So what did he do? He said that I am going to offer my salah, and while I am offering my salah, then you amputate. Why? Because these are the kind of people, when they start praying, they are communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will forget about the world. They don't know what's happening in the world. They are in a completely different world. So that's how these people were, and they said that, and that's what they did actually. When he was in prayer, they amputated his leg, and he was, it was as if like, there is no effect on him. So these are really very high level people. These are the people guaranteed Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us like these people, who have this khushu' in salah. So, but in general, I'm telling you that it is permitted to take such medications. Let's look at one more issue. Is it okay to eat animals? Is it really okay? I mean, is it better to stay vegetarian, or is it better to eat meat? Now, did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam eat meat? He did, right? And if there was something bad in it, he would stay away from it, right? So now that there are a few groups, they say that, hey, how can you be so barbaric? How can you kill an innocent life? You're torturing an animal. You shouldn't be doing this.
Donkeys around.
Yeah, no, I'm going to cover it, don't worry. So the reason is that, how we view things is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. He it is who created for you all that is on the earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, whatever I created, it is for you. It is to serve you. But at the same time, we should be aware of all those ahadith which mentions that you cannot be cruel to animals. If you hit the animal and stab it or beat it to death with a stick, for example, your akhirah is in big danger. And we also know some hadith how because of a cat, a woman went into hell. So if you don't follow the proper principles, you might end up in hellfire. So you cannot be barbaric to animals, but at the same time, when you slaughter in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to slaughter, inshallah that will be okay, no problem, and it's not considered barbaric. Because the main purpose of the creation of animals was to serve human beings as a food for human beings. That was their main purpose of creation. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what He said in Surah Al-Baqarah. But there are some, even Muslims, they say that, I don't like meat. Are they committing sin? They say, I just don't like the taste of meat. Do they have to eat meat? It's if you don't like the taste of meat, that's okay. It's perfectly permissible. But don't go around telling people that meat is haram. Don't eat meat. It's not good. Be vegetarian. It's more healthy. No, we have defined in Islam what is healthy and what is not. Okay, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made halal, it is healthy for us. What is haram is we go beyond what, for example, eat a lot of something, eat more than 1/3, then it can become haram to you. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned many hadith for you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that, O you who believe, make not unlawful the tayyibat which Allah has made lawful to you, and transgress not, verily Allah does not like the transgressor. So this is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. And if you remember that hadith that some companions came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they mentioned that, I am not going to marry a woman. And one of them said, I will not sleep on my bed, and I will always fast. Another one said that I will not eat meat. So what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He got angry. Some people think that I'll try to be more pious by giving up meat. That's not how it should be. If you want to be more pious, you have to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he used to eat meat, and that's how you follow. And he said that whoever deviates from my sunnah does not belong to me. So if somebody just comes up and makes this rule that, hey, I'm not going to eat animals, then he's cutting away from the sunnah. But if he doesn't like the taste of meat, that's okay, no problem. He doesn't have to eat. You just have to remember that it is, you should not go about making things haram by yourself. Don't have the authority to do that. Okay, so these are just animals, and we are going to discuss each of these, which one is haram and which one is not. Not all donkeys are haram, by the way, and we'll discuss some donkeys are haram, inshallah. Oh, nature. So let's talk about the land animals. So now we're done with plants and liquids. With those three general principles that I mentioned, those you can apply. Now, land animals, there are more rules to it. So first thing that we need to ask, so these are the 5 rules. So these are the 5 rules that we need to remember. And if you know these 5 rules, you will know really very easy whether something is halal or not, something is haram or not. You can apply this principle to all the 10,000 animals and you will know yourself. So I don't have to go listing each and every of them. Okay. First thing we have to know, as we mentioned, we have to know how did the animal die? Did it die according to Islamic law? So you go to some place and you see a sheep and it's dead there, okay? And you say that, hey, why don't I just cut the meat and eat it? Sheep is halal, right? Can we do that? We cannot do that. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that something which is dead, it is called as what? Mayta, and that is haram. A dead animal is haram. We're talking about land animals specifically now. Sea animals, we have different rulings. Sheep is a land animal, so if the animal was dead, you cannot eat it. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that قُلْ لَا أُجِدُ فِي مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَى مُحَرَّمًا عَلَى طَعَامٍ يَطْعَمُهُ إِلَّا أَن يَكُونَ مَيْتَةً أَوْ دَمًا مَصْفُوحًا. And he goes on with the list of items, and maita, that's what he mentions there, the dead animal. Okay? And also in this category comes the general category of how you slaughtered it, right? And who is slaughtering it. So all the rulings of slaughter we are going to cover in a separate chapter, but it has to be slaughtered according to Islamic way. You cannot just shoot an animal. It's going to make haram, that animal as haram. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions about impious or unlawful meat of an animal. Something which is what is considered impious is that something which is slaughtered for other than Allah. So that becomes impious. That's a shirk. Okay. So let's talk about second one now. Specific prohibition. So we covered this already. Death of the animal, and then specific prohibition of animals. What are the animals that are specifically prohibited by name? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in one more verse, the same verse, Surah Al-An'am 6, verse number 145. He mentioned khinzir, which is pig or swine. What's the difference between pig and swine? Swine is basically a domesticated pig. That's what people usually eat. Pig is like any pig, like immature or wild or anything. So this is a general one. Swine is like, that's what people eat. Anything that is domesticated, anything that is in the market. What are the other names that we usually hear? Ham, right? Ham or the hog. Hog. Boar is another name. So you need to know these names in this country because pig is like the third most slaughtered animal in the world. So you have to know this. So first is what? First is probably chicken. Right? What's second?
Beef.
Oh, if you look in the whole world, don't just think about Arabs and Indo-Pak people. In the whole world, second is duck, interestingly. Duck is the most one. And then comes sheep and cow and all those things. So pig is like the third. It's like I took this from National Geography statistics. I'll share sometime, inshallah.
They don't slaughter pig though.
Yeah, but in terms of consumption, consumption is third. In terms of eating meat, this is the third one. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that, the same verse, the maita aw daman masfuha aw lahma khinzir fa innahu rijsun aw fisqan uhilla li ghayri Allah bih. So same thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentioned, or the flesh of swine, which is the pork, basically, that is haram. And another thing that is haram, another animal which is haram is domesticated donkey. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically mentioned this in not surah, in Sahih al-Bukhari, and he mentioned that this hadith, it says that basically it was permitted earlier. Muslims used to eat it. Then when the time of Khaybar came, the battle of Khaybar, the day of Khaybar, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically made it haram for everybody. No more donkeys, domesticated donkeys. So donkeys, there are many kinds. We have wild donkeys, onagers, and we have another one called what? Zebra. It's wahshi, right? Wahshi, himar al-wahshi.
Zebra is not donkey, it's a horse.
Well, in Arabic, the way they call it is himar. It's like a donkey. Himar al-wahshi. It's like a zebra, but that is halal, inshallah. Another one is mule. Horse is actually halal. Horse is actually halal. And this Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam again mentioned specifically in Sahih al-Bukhari that he specifically granted a concession allowing them to eat the meat of horses. But however, scholars say that now we have interesting dilemma when we have, the father and mother, when they mate, we have horse's father and mother's donkey, we call it a mule, right? And a henny is the other way around. Donkey and a horse, mother is horse. Majority of them said that you cannot eat mule or henny. It kind of looks like a horse, but you cannot eat it. So both of them, mule and a henny, they are haram for you. Okay. This one, and this is general prohibition of animals. These are the animals who have fangs that are used for hunting. What is the meaning of fang?
Claws of fang.
Not claws, the teeth. These you see here, these are called fangs. The canine tooth, that's what we call in English. Claws you're talking about, that's about birds, not about animals. We don't care about that they have claws or not. In case of land animals, we only look at the teeth, the canine teeth, if they have it or not. So which animals have the canine tooth? The tiger, the lions all have here, leopard, bear. So these animals, when they eat, when they hunt, they use these canine teeth to hunt. Okay, so that's how we see. So all these animals are haram. Cat, interestingly, it also has it. You might not have seen it, but it has it, and it uses that to catch a rat or a lizard, whatever it is. So that's why you cannot eat these animals. But there is one exception there, that there are some animals, Allah created them with fangs, but they don't use it for hunting. They just are there. So those animals, scholars said that it's okay, you can eat them. We will see what those animals, which animals they are. But if they are used for hunting, then you cannot eat them. And they have to be predatory wild animals. That's the word I was looking for. They have to be a predator using these fangs. If they don't have fangs, then you can eat them.